6:41 on a Thursday. The engine has been off for 9 minutes. His hand is on the door handle, and it has been there long enough that the metal went warm. Through the kitchen window there's a shape crossing back and forth, somebody setting the table. His phone is face down on the passenger seat. The podcast ended 2 exits before he pulled in, and he never started another one. The car ticks as it cools. He watches the window. He doesn't move. Those 9 minutes are the only stretch of his entire day that belongs to him, and he spends them doing the hardest piece of unpaid work he'll do all week. He's taking one man apart and putting a different one together, 20 feet from his own front door, so that the guy who walks through it is fit to be around. That happens 4 nights a week, sometimes 5. 9 minutes each, for however many years he's been driving that route home. Add it up across a decade, and you're looking at whole weeks of a man's life spent in a stationary car in his own driveway. And every man who skips it finds out what the 9 minutes were buying. He comes through the door at full speed with the day still running in him, and the first person who says his name gets an answer built for somebody else. That costs him an evening. Do it enough times and it costs more than an evening. Go back to the phone on the passenger seat, face down. He's got a device within reach that could hand him 100 different things in half a second, and he isn't touching it. That one detail gives away most of it. A tired man scrolls. A bored man scrolls. What he's doing in that seat runs on silence. No feed, no video, nobody's voice in his ear, not even a stranger's on a podcast. Now look at where he does it. It happens in the 20 feet between the car door and the front door, and only there. Same man, same seat, parked in the office lot at noon, and he's out and walking before the engine stops ticking. Whatever those minutes are for, they're for crossing that one line. He's changing out of one man and into another one, and the change takes time. The version of him that ran that day and the version of him that walks into that kitchen are 2 different operations, and he can't run them back to back. The driveway is where the switch happens. Those 9 minutes are the bridge between the day and the house, and he walks it alone every night. Work-life balance almost always gets counted in hours. How many at the office, how many at home, whether the split looks fair on paper. The seam between the two is where it actually goes wrong, and the seam has a length to it. Nobody ever teaches a man how to get from one side to the other, and the getting there is real work with a real duration. You already know your own number. Every man watching this who drives home has one, and it isn't vague, it's specific. 8 minutes or 12 or 1 song or 2 lights past the exit. Whatever yours is, you didn't sit down and decide it, and you'd defend it hard if somebody tried to take it away from you. For almost every year humans have existed, the work that fed a family happened somewhere else. Men went out. They hunted, they fished, they farmed a field an hour's walk from the huts, they worked a boat, they went with other men to do something long or dangerous or just tedious. And then they came back. Coming back took time, because the distance was real distance. Nobody designed that gap. It came free with the geography. Whatever happened out there, a bad day on the water, a fight with another man, an injury he was hiding, some humiliation in front of people whose opinion mattered, got an hour of walking to settle before he was standing in front of the people who depended on him. And the last stretch of that walk was usually the quietest part. Whatever the men had to say to each other about the day, they said it early while the light was still good. Then they split off toward their own doors, one at a time, and every one of them covered the last piece of ground alone. That was the ordinary end of a working day for thousands of years, and no father ever had to explain it to a son. That gap did real work, and the households where men had it ran better. A man who arrived still loaded from the outside was a problem indoors, in small ways that stacked up over years. So men learned to take the walk slow, without anybody ever telling them to. Then we deleted the walk. The commute got shorter, or it turned into a train where he's answering messages the whole ride. Plenty of men now close a laptop, stand up, and are at the dinner table in 15 feet. Some finish a call in one room and hear their name from the next room, before the call has ended. So men rebuild the walk out of whatever material is left, and there's almost nothing left. He can't get it at work. He can't get it in the house, where every room has somebody in it or a job waiting in it. A parked car in a driveway is the last enclosed space in a man's life where nobody has a claim on him. My father did this in a pickup, in the same spot on the street, for years. I was maybe 10, and I always assumed he was on a call. One night I watched him from the porch for a while, and he was just sitting there with both hands on the wheel looking at the dashboard. Think about what that car actually is for a few minutes. Nobody in it wants anything. Nothing in there is going to ask him a question, hand him a problem, or need a decision from him in the next 90 seconds. Count the hours in his day where all of that is true at once, and you land on a number close to 0. At work, he's output. Everything he does there gets graded by somebody, and how he eats next year depends on how the grading goes. He spends 9 hours in front of people who can move him up or move him out, and he knows exactly which ones they are, and he adjusts his face when they walk past. Then he pulls in at home, and he becomes the answer to things. The dishwasher is making a sound. The kid can't find the shoes. There's a form to sign and a call to make about the insurance, and somebody's brother is coming Saturday. The two places don't even want the same man. Work wants him quick, hard to rattle, already decided before he opens his mouth. The kitchen wants him slow enough to sit through 4 minutes about what happened at a lunch table. Both of those places are good places. He built the second one on purpose, and he'd do it again. They just both run on him, and they hand him off to each other with nothing in between. The car is the one spot in the whole day where sitting there is the entire job. Nobody in that seat needs anything from him. He doesn't have to make anything, answer anything, settle anything, or have an opinion ready when somebody looks at him. For 9 minutes, he isn't a provider, an employee, or somebody's dad. And he isn't behind on a single thing for as long as he stays. That's the appeal, and it's the whole appeal. It's also why the habit survives 20 years without him ever consciously choosing it. Nobody sold it to him either. There's no book on his shelf about it, no friend who told him to try it, nothing he'd ever call a practice or a routine if you asked him. He started doing it somewhere around 30 and never stopped. And a man doesn't repeat something 4 nights a week for 2 decades unless it's doing something for him that nothing else in his week does. There's a guy who does a version of this without ever parking. He gets to his own street, drives past it, takes the next left, runs a loop of 4 blocks and comes back. 4 extra minutes, same driveway, same time on the clock, as far as anyone in the house knows. He's been doing it long enough that he takes those corners without thinking about them. Then there's the man who sits in the parking garage for 10 minutes before he goes up. The one who takes 25-minute showers in a house where nobody else takes 25-minute showers. The one who walks the trash out and stands at the curb for a while. The one who volunteers for the 8 o'clock store run every single time, cheerfully, for 1 item. Every man I've raised this with gave me his number immediately, like I'd asked his shoe size. One guy said about 1 song, sometimes 2, and then told me which song. Another one said he counts it in cigarettes, and he hasn't smoked since 2019. That readiness matters, because it tells you the thing is a fixed routine and not a mood. He isn't sitting there because tonight was rough. He sits there on the good nights too. It's the same spot, roughly the same length, the same finish to the same drive, and the sameness is a big part of what makes it work. A routine he doesn't have to think about costs him nothing to run. He isn't weighing anything when he kills the engine, he's already doing it, and that's why it survives the nights when he's late, the nights when the day was fine, and the nights when somebody's expecting him at 8. Look at his day and count the decisions that were actually his. What time he got up was set by the commute. What he worked on was set by somebody above him. Where he ate lunch was set by what was open near the site. What happens the second he walks through that door gets set by whoever needs something first. Then there's the car. He decides when it starts. He decides when it's over. Nobody else gets a vote, nobody has to be consulted, and nothing about it has to be scheduled around anyone. It's the one thing in his whole day that he begins and ends himself. That's the only appointment in his week with those terms on it, and men will guard a small thing hard when it's the only one of its kind they've got. Those minutes are not for him, or they're for him, and then about 4 seconds later they're for everybody inside that house. That's the part that makes the whole thing worth defending. Say he got talked over in a meeting at 4 by somebody with less experience and a better title, and he sat there and took it because taking it was the correct move. That doesn't switch off when the meeting ends. He drives home with it still running. He pulls in with it still running. Say he goes straight in. The kid meets him at the door and asks where his cleats are. Ordinary question, asked the way an 8-year-old asks things. At volume, 3 feet from his face. And the kid gets an answer with the wrong weight on it, in a voice that was assembled that afternoon for a man in a conference room. The boy's face changes. He goes to his room without the cleats. Nothing happened, technically. No yelling, nothing anybody would repeat. The kid just learned something small about what his dad is like at 6:30, and the rest of that night gets spent on repair. He knows what he did within about 4 seconds of doing it. He'll be gentle at dinner, he'll go find the cleats himself, he'll say something warm at bedtime, and part of him will still be turning it over at 11 o'clock. 9 minutes in a driveway is the cheaper version of that, and any man who has lived both knows exactly which one he'd pick. That's what the seat is for. He sits there until the meeting stops running, and then he goes in and hears the question about the cleats as a question about cleats. Watch what actually happens across those 9 minutes, because it isn't nothing and it isn't magic either. The first 3, the day is still playing. He's finishing the argument he didn't get to finish at 4. He's saying the better line he thought of on the highway. His jaw is doing something. Around minute 5, that starts losing steam, the way a room stays warm after the heat goes off. By the last 2, he's mostly just looking at the shape moving behind the kitchen window, and the meeting is somewhere behind him instead of on top of him. He isn't solving anything out there. Nothing about that afternoon gets fixed between 6:41 and 6:49. The day just stops being loud enough to carry inside. That's the whole trade. The day ends in the driveway, so it doesn't end at the dinner table. When was the last time you got through your own front door and made it 2 full minutes before somebody needed something from you? Just the clock on it, nothing more. Most men can't find an example that goes past 90 seconds. Now, the reasonable read on all of this, the one plenty of people will land on, goes like this. The man is tired. He's 41, he worked 9 hours, he drove 40 minutes in traffic, and he wants a minute before the questions start. Everybody likes a minute. His wife takes long baths. The teenager doesn't come out of that room for hours at a stretch. Same species of thing, and making it bigger than that is reading tea leaves. That red deserves a straight answer, because the front half of it is true. He is tired, and tired men do want to sit down. Follow it one step further and it comes apart, and it comes apart on things already sitting in that driveway. Start with Saturday. He drives to the hardware store, he's gone 90 minutes, he comes back and parks in the identical spot. And he gets out. Bag in hand, door shut, inside in 11 seconds. He's driven into that driveway thousands of times, and the sitting only ever happens on the way back from one specific place. Then watch what a resting man's body does and compare it to his. Resting is the seat going back and the shoulders dropping. His hand never left that handle for 9 minutes. He's braced the entire time, like a man holding a door shut while he waits for the pressure behind it to come down and go back to the guy running the 4-block loop, because he settles it. A man who is worn out and wants to stop moving does not volunteer 4 extra minutes of driving at the end of a 40-minute drive. He's buying something with those minutes, and he'll pay in the exact currency he has least of. What's happening out there is the healthiest thing in his whole evening. He's doing maintenance on himself alone at the end of a day when he's already spent, so that the people inside get the version of him they'd actually choose. He walks in lighter than he pulled in, and more of him is actually in the room. It costs nobody anything. It's the cheapest fix available for a problem every working man has. 6:49. The porch light comes on and the front door opens, and somebody stands in it with a hand up against the glare. He picks the phone up off the passenger seat, reaches back for the bag, and finally works the handle he's been holding since he pulled in. He gets out heavier than he went in because he never sat back once. The sitting is right, the length is right, the silence is right. The only thing off about it is that he takes those minutes by accident, the way you'd catch your breath without noticing you were out of it. And minutes taken by accident do about half the work they could. Picture the same driveway with a man who knows what the minutes are for. Engine off, seat back 2 notches, shoulders down, phone left in the door pocket. He lets the last 8 minutes of the thing he's listening to finish. Then he decides it's done, and he goes in, before any light comes on, before anybody comes out to check on the car. Same driveway, same clock, same 9 minutes as the other guy. One of them is holding a door shut and the other one is arriving, because that's all the car ever was. A few minutes where nobody needs anything from him, where the day gets to finish somewhere other than the kitchen, where the one thing on his calendar starts and stops on his say-so. 9 minutes of that, and he can hear a question about cleats as a question about cleats. And if there's a boy in that house, he's already watching the car from the porch, the same way I watched a pickup from ours, working out what a man does with the end of his own day. He'll have a number of his own eventually. It will show up around 30, in some car, in some driveway, and he won't remember deciding on it. You already know yours. You've known it for years. It's the last piece of that long walk home still standing, and you built it back yourself out of a car, a driveway, and 9 minutes nobody gave you.